used to watch? Did any of you used to watch Russell Brand? Like,
Yeah,
his
on
podcasts?
what? Oh, on the podcast. Little bits. I found it a little bit too
He loves it now. doesn't he?
complicated to listen to in a way. Like,
Yeah,
He's such complex words.
He does use complex words. Doesn't he?
Yeah, like I couldn't understand half of what he's like.
A lot of the time you're going, yeah, I agree.
But
I do like the guy though.
yeah, the reason I mention it is he used to have that thing. He used to have the podcast called The Truths, didn't he? The Truths, which was the news if it was true.
Okay, yeah.
And then I was thinking today, like, oh, we're the Popper Pod, and we're like sort of doing our take on the news. Could we be the Pews? And then I thought it sounds too much like pubes, so I thought, nah, forget that.
That sounds a bit like a gay network. We're the Pews. Here to give you the news and suck you off as well.
Exactly, yeah. So as you can see, they're not always hit out the park, are they? These ideas.
Let's work on it. Let's get a WhatsApp group together.
Go on,
But
the pews,
the pews, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
the pubes, yeah.
Yeah, let's go with that. Pubes.
The hit, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, Russell Brand's class. I like his. Did you ever watch that interview where the guy was like, he tried to like grill him. He's like, oh, you don't vote, and he's like, oh no, I don't vote, and then he goes on this spiel about why he doesn't vote. And have you seen that?
But then he ends up,
yeah.
doesn't he end up getting that politician on his...
yeah, he got, what's his name, didn't he?
Didn't he get Ed Miliband or something? Yeah, because he was getting into his politics shortly after that again, I think.
And didn't he say at the end of the interview, I don't vote, but if I did vote, I'd vote for Ed Miliband. It's like,
No, I don't think he said
a contradiction.
that.
No, he did. I think he did.
I think he did say it.
Something
I'm
along
sure he
them
said
lines.
it.
Oh, right.
Like, but yeah,
I enjoy that interview anyway. But
Yeah.
it-
well, that was on that interview was on the Truths.
oh, was it?
was on his show,
Oh, was that when it went on?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
just remember watching it. Good interview, that.
Yeah,
He's reinvented himself, though, hasn't he? Because he had
Many times.
he had a dip, didn't he? Remember when he
He went off the radar.
him and
for quite a while.
Jonathan Ross did that prank phone call, didn't they? They did a prank phone call about
to the daughter of like
the guy. Was it Faulty
he was
Towers
a lord
or something?
Yeah, Manuel off 40 Towers.
That's
yeah,
it. Yeah, and they said
His
stuff
daughter,
about
and he
his
basically said
daughter.
he shagged his daughter or something, didn't he?
Yeah, and like
Yeah, because Jonathan Ross lost his place on ITV, didn't he? After that.
No, he was on
lost
BBC.
his
Oh, was it
radio
BBC?
show,
Yeah, of
He had
course,
the
yeah, yeah. And
BBC.
then Graham Norton came in, didn't he?
Yeah. But now he's
okay,
back on. But he's back on
is he?
ITV.
Oh, yeah,
Jonathan Ross
ITV.
is
Yeah.
on
But
ITV
no, does
now.
anybody watch it anymore? Jonathan
I
Ross
don't
show?
watch any TV
Nah, to be
anymore.
fair, neither do I. Is Graham Norton still on? Quite like that.
I think so.
I don't know about you guys, but
I'm not a secret fan.
You were like, I think so. You know so.
Yes, I know. The background of my phone, Graham.
does anybody watch TV now though and just like cringe?
To be honest, nah, I just don't watch TV. I swear, the
neither
last
do
time I
I,
turned
but-
TV on was like, just Netflix. That's all I ever put on now. Netflix
No,
or...
yeah, same. But like yesterday, I was obviously the missus was doing the painting in the living room, and I was sat down. You came actually yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I was sat on my laptop doing some work, and she has like This Morning on, and then Loose Women.
Right, yeah.
It's just infuriating, man.
Yeah.
It's just like it's all just the same talking points, and from the same point of view.
Yeah.
No one's allowed to question it. You know, no one's allowed to question COVID. No one's allowed to question mask wearing. No one's allowed to question being woke or any of that. It's all just there's no.
But that's pretty much across
no-
the whole mainstream
yeah,
media,
yeah.
isn't it? It's
there's
not
no
just yeah,
diverse. I know exactly.
But yeah,
but
yeah, I see what you're
that
saying,
was
yeah.
my first glimpse into it.
yeah.
You know, but there's just no.
That's why I don't bother watching it now. It's just
There's no diversification of idea or opinion. It's just all the same. It's almost like they're all reading from a script.
definitely.
Yeah. And they're all just fueling each other, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually get annoyed when I like you just said. You get annoyed listening to it, like on the radio. That's probably the only time I ever maybe come across some sort of mainstream media.
Yeah.
Is when I listen to a little bit on Radio 1 or something, and like some of the ways they like portray these stories and the way they're like, and you just kind of like, it's like they're talking to kids.
Oh yeah.
Like the way they put it across. Like,
Patronising
yeah,
it.
that's it.
I'm just
yeah,
constantly sitting there going, "Fuck off" to the radio, to the TV.
Me too.
And my missus is like, "Will you just shut up?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm just constantly.
They will not silent me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah. Speaking of all that, anyway. Speaking of Russell Brand, though, mate, have you seen like he's really changing his viewpoints lately?
Yeah.
Almost like he's almost. I'd go as far as to say he's becoming a bit conservative.
Right.
To be honest.
Now, what's your interpretation of conservative? Because obviously you follow American politics. It's completely different in England. What conservative?
No, conservative.
Oh, is it the?
No, well.
So would you say your conservative values and views translate over to England?
Yeah, I'd say.
It's more right-leaning,
Yeah.
isn't it? Conservative.
It's kind of like, nuclear family.
But would you say that's a conservative thing?
Yeah.
Really?
These days.
Even in England, though.
Definitely, I
What do you
think
think?
so.
Conservatives are more family-based, family values, all that.
Yeah. Don't you?
Nah, I'd say the opposite, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's more about like being out for yourself, or just like basically look after number one, be out for yourself, and whereas like
Look after
if
number
you're
one.
talking about family values, that to me would be looking after like families and making sure they're okay, and creating a sense of
I don't mean
community.
family. I'm not saying that if you're if you're liberal or working class, if you've got them views, you're not family orientated. What I'm saying is, the Conservatives, they believe in the nuclear family. How important the nuclear family is in the sense of the mum and dad staying together.
And you don't think Labour do that? I don't think there's that kind of divide in England.
Labour incentivise coming from a single parent household, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't think the incentive. Well, yeah.
Well, they kind of do. You have to if you
And
get
they support it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
right. Whereas Conservatives are more like because remember the Conservatives brought in the tax credits and all that sort of. They increased the tax credits, didn't they, for working families and made it more lucrative, if you want to use that word, to be a nuclear family.
Yeah.
But no, conservative views are just kind of like views that probably 20, 30 years ago, everyone would have just had, Nuclear family is important. When you say conservatives just want to look after themselves, I talk like this like I'm a conservative. I'm not a conservative. I've just got old-fashioned, probably conservative values. But you say, conservatives are all about looking after themselves. But it's about looking after themselves and their family first. And that's kind of, it starts at home.
I see, at the moment, my interpretation of the Conservative Party is just very like, they're all in bed with the media. They're all kind of looking out for their rich friends. And that's kind of like where...
Yeah, but you talk about the party here. I'm
talking about the party, yeah.
So I think it's
talking about the values, aren't you?
Values.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
I don't even think the Conservative Party now hold many conservative values. Politics in general is all just about, like you say, looking out for yourself, being greedy and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And that's what I was referring to really, is the Conservative
and I'm not
as a
talking about the
party,
Conservative Party now. I'm talking about conservative values,
Right.
just sort of like being, it's kind of just being old-fashioned, really.
So really, Conservative values is what? Looking after your family. What
Looking
else?
after your family, believing that the nuclear family is...
And what do you mean by nuclear family?
Well,
like the
two parents together and the kids.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
That's what a nuclear family is.
Okay. Well, I'd agree with that. Would you?
Not
I think most people would agree with that, really.
Yeah.
Well,
Working
no,
hard
if
as
you look
well.
at like in BLM's manifesto,
Right.
they actually say to dismantle the nuclear family.
Really?
Yeah, it's part of their manifesto. It's part of their agenda.
Right.
To dismantle the nuclear
And
family.
there are many leftist now agendas out there, like you've just touched on, BLM, who do want to destroy a nuclear family, who want to empower kind of single motherhood or empower, same-sex families, etc. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with that whatsoever.
No, there's nothing wrong with it, but all studies show
There you go.
that
You're
the
looking at the
best thing that
stats.
you can do for a child, above the area that they live in, above how much money you've got, above how much, buying them a PlayStation or an Xbox or an iPad, whatever.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do for a child is keep the family together.
Yeah.
Having a mother and a father, or if it's a same-sex couple, whatever, but having two parents with two specific roles there in their life, that's the best thing you can do for a child in terms of the trajectory of their life outcomes.
Kind of stems back to biology. It takes two to tango to have a child, so you would think that...
Well, exactly.
You should be encouraged that once you create a child as well, you're going to have two parents responsible for that child, because effectively a child needs them. Well, doesn't need it, but it's better for a child to have
do.
a mom and
They
dad.
do need it.
Well, it
That
depends.
shows-
If you've got a really strong mom, a mom could probably do just as good a job as a half decent mom and dad. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, I'm sure there are occasions where a mom has brought up a son just as well as a mom and dad.
Of course there's
no
occasions.
one's
Yeah,
saying
that's what I'm
here-
But
saying.
when you look
Yeah.
at the overall stats,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Obviously you're going to have...
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm distinguishing. It's not 100% needed. It is possible, but it's better if obviously there are.
It's the best scenario.
Yeah, it's
isn't
the
it?
best scenario.
No one's saying that single moms who are bringing up their kids, no one's saying that they're doing their kids a disservice or that they're not doing a good job. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
But a mother, same as a father's not going to be able to provide what a mother can provide, and a mother is never going to be able to provide everything a father can provide.
Yeah.
The best ideal scenario is a mother and a father together.
Yin and yang,
Yin
balance
and yang,
each other out.
exactly.
So it is right. It is quite strange that you would actually look to destroy the family nucleus,
'Cause you
as
look at the
opposed to say, right, let's support, same-sex marriages more, and let's maybe support single moms a bit more. Why would you go out your way to say let's destroy nucleus families? Does that not seem a bit extreme? That who's actually saying that? Like,
BLM, it's in the manifesto.
Who are BLM though? Is it like, because the way I interpret BLM initially anyway was like, Black Lives Matter was a movement that stemmed from people's, thinking that, there's racism existing in society, and obviously it originated from, what was his name? What's the one that got...
the George Floyd movement.
Was that the
No,
start?
that wasn't the original.
Oh, that wasn't
the original
Okay,
was,
well,
wasn't it Trayvon Martin?
right.
Or was it Trayvon? Or
I'm
Mike,
not
what was the other
100%
guy?
sure.
Hands up, don't shoot. Can't remember. But yeah, I think it was Trayvon Martin.
Right. So when it first started, it almost seemed like quite a noble. There was some good things going on as well in terms of protests, like people standing solidarity, whatever, to raise awareness for issues that people may think are prevalent in society, right? And now it just seems to be, the more I kind of see it now, it seems to be more of like an extremist group of rioters and thugs that are going around smashing buildings, like starting fires in the name of in the guise of they're
Under the mask of.
Yeah. So what is it? What's your take on it? Do you think it's
What, BLM?
Yeah. Has it almost seems like it's become like,
well, I think
very
there's two
violent
camps. There's the camp of, like you say, people who believe in the movement, and believe something needs to be done about it. But then you've got BLM, the actual organisation,
right?
And like there's almost two different camps. There's the people who believe in BLM, Black Lives Matter, empowering and trying to make black people's lives better. But then you've got BLM, which is actually an organisation. In fact, it's a business. They've made millions in terms of donation, which they haven't disclosed what they've done with it.
Right.
Okay. And what's the woman who was it? Patrice Cullors? I might be getting this wrong, but the founder of Black Lives Matter. The one with the socialist views and the government should be looking after you and all this sort of stuff. Just bought herself, beginning of this year, I think it was a $3.3 million mansion she bought herself.
Someone's doing well.
So when you see the rioters and the protest, like these people smashing up buildings, is that directly related to this Black Lives Matter movement, or is it is it a political party, Black Lives Matter, and are they behind all these rioters?
Well, they're not a political party. Right. They're an organisation, aren't they?
So effectively,
but it almost is like a political party. In a sense,
But they are trying to influence politics now.
massively.
Right. But are they behind all the riots?
They're not trying. They are.
Are they behind all the riots and the burning of the buildings, or is that just yobs and?
No, they're doing it in the name of BLM.
Yeah. But are they just using it as an excuse?
I think you'll always attract, once something can start as a peaceful protest, and then you'll always attract people who just want chaos.
Yeah.
So I think that initially there might be people there who are trying to stand up for this movement, etc., and then you're going to just get thugs who come along.
So who are the main spokespeople for Black Lives Matter then?
Pretty much all the left-wing media. I mean,
right.
They're all in favour of Black Lives Matter. And the thing is as well, they all perpetuate this false narrative that racism is around every single corner.
Yeah.
When it's just not.
Yeah,
no one's saying that racism doesn't exist.
Yeah.
No one's, and it's never going to be that case. You're always going to have racism, but is it more racist now than it was in 1966 or in the 1970s? I'm going to make the argument that no way is it more racist now. But if you were to turn on the news, okay, if you were a young, black, Asian person of colour now, turning on the news today and watching it, you would think that you were living, culturally in the 1960s, the way the media make it out.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, it plants this seed in the mind of, everything's racist.
Yeah. I'm a victim.
I'm a victim. I'm walking down the road now. That person who's just been rude to me is doing it because of the colour of my skin.
Yeah.
When actually they've just probably walked past. I've said this before. They've probably just walked past 3 or 4 white people and been just as rude.
Yeah.
You know.
But everything relates back to race for them.
Everything relates back.
And it seems like the media seems to be creating this narrative purposely of, you know, this on this side, this on that side, and they're creating almost. They're creating
Division.
yeah, and they're doing it in a clever way where they're making white people feel, or they're making black people feel like they're being hard done by, and they're making white people feel like they're also being hard done by as well in a way, or like they have to in order to not look racist, be more on the side of black people, even though it's kind of against their own.
The anti-white.
Yeah, it's almost like so it's like if you're not being completely on one side, then that makes you a racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case. It's like the whole Rittenhouse trial that's just gone on. Obviously, Rittenhouse, he killed 3 white people, yet the media have somehow twisted it to make it into a race issue.
Yeah.
So it almost seems like obviously you look into American politics a bit more from me, but just from the surface, it seems like the media have now created another race issue around the killing of 3 white males.
Yeah.
And you kind of ask yourself, how have they managed to do that, first of all? And second of all, why is it that the media, like this is, if you were really trying to stop divide and racism, and you didn't want racism to be prevalent, right? Why would you be almost throwing wood on the fire? Do you see what I mean? And that's what it feels like the media is constantly doing now. Like, you don't really see stories in the media of, you know, white man saves black man from a burning building, you know, white family, you know, it's always very white man does this to a black man does this to a white man. It's all very racial.
No. You'll never see black man does this to a white man,
right?
Because you got to look at the language now in the news, all right? And perfect example is this this what do you want to call it? Terrorist attack or this attack in Wisconsin now, okay?
Attack.
Now, I saw that and immediately.
Do you want to explain what that is?
Okay, so for people who don't know, I mean, it has made sort of even local news in England now.
Yeah.
So there was a Christmas parade going on in Wisconsin.
And Wisconsin is where this Rittenhouse guy's from.
Is either near or is the same state as as where Rittenhouse the Rittenhouse trial took place. So basically, there's a long story short. There's a Christmas parade going on, and a man has just basically ploughed through this parade in a red pickup truck like yours, Ewan, and just mowed down people like they were, you know, Skittles. I think he's killed 5.
Yeah, killed 5,
And
injured multiple
dozens,
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kids, women, men, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, as soon as I read and saw the news about it, immediately, and you know, I don't want this to sound racist, but immediately I assumed that the driver wasn't white. And the reason I assumed the driver wasn't white is because his race wasn't
There's
mentioned.
no mention of race, was
right?
there?
Now, if it was a white guy, straight away, the media would have said, white supremacist mows down, or white terrorist mows down.
Trump follower.
Exactly, Trumpist or whatever, mows down. They wouldn't wait to get the guy's race out there. But for this guy, they didn't. So I thought to myself, he's either Hispanic, you know, black, Asian, whatever, but he's not white. We looked it up today.
But we had to do some digging as well, because when we just typed into Google, you know, the incident, all the mainstream media outlets, they didn't mention, when I was looking through it, didn't mention the race at all.
Not at all.
I had to actually take the guy's name and put that into Google, and then further down the Google list, find images of him.
Yeah.
So
Now,
it's almost like they're, would you go as far as say hiding?
well, it's
race?
a lie. It's almost like a lie of omission, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're omitting that information, so they're not necessarily lying, but they're not giving the full facts. Now, not that it should really matter. I mean, me personally, I don't think it matters what colour the race of someone is if they commit a crime. The fact is they've committed a crime.
Of course.
You know, but the reason I'm making a point of this is they do like to sensationalise when it is a white person, particularly a white male, straight white male, who does something.
And to be fair, that seems to be the agenda of the last maybe like 2-3 years, because before that it was Muslims.
Well, yeah.
Wasn't it really? Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
only really been the last 2-3 years. Before that, it was Muslim terrorists.
Yeah.
You know, Muslims, Al Qaeda. That was the whole narrative then. And yet, we haven't really seen a lot of that lately. And all of a sudden now, it's white supremacy,
White terrorism.
Yeah, white terrorism. You know,
The KKK, all this. Even though the
Yeah,
KKK have been, they haven't existed for I don't know how long. There's hardly any KKK members now. I don't even think they really exist.
Yeah.
But there's all that talk. Nazis is a term that gets bandied around a lot.
Yeah.
Now, the reason we're bringing this up is this guy who's just ran over all these people in Wisconsin. How emboldened was he by the media? How almost brainwashed was he? Maybe watching and in his head, thinking to himself, we're just getting slaughtered by all these white people.
Yeah.
Here's a white lad who's just got.
And we're
off.
only speculating saying this, aren't we?
Of course,
Obviously.
we're speculating, right? But we're getting, slaughtered, and there's this white lad who just got off. He's maybe thinking, you know what, I've got to do something about it. Goes and does that.
Yeah.
Because of this narrative that's being driven by the media. Now, with Carl Rittenhouse, the narrative is he's a white supremacist, right? Even though 3 guys who he shot were white.
But you don't know that at first. When I first heard about the Carl Rittenhouse trial, right? The way in which the media was portraying it, I assumed that the 3 guys he had shot, the 2 killed and 1 injured, I thought they were black. I genuinely thought they were black until you actually read into it. But again, in the articles, they won't declare the race of the people he shot. You have to then look into it further to actually find out. Exactly. Oh my gosh, I've had to go down the rabbit hole here to find out these guys are actually white.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, again, a lie of omission. They've left it out. They haven't necessarily mentioned, but you make your own assumption, right? And when you say, because remember, it was a BLM protest as well.
Yeah.
So here's the headline. Young white lad crosses state lines, even though, like we said before, he lived sort of 10 minutes from this place. He lived in a borderline town. So technically it's crossing state lines, but it's like you going from here to Bilston.
Right.
You know what I mean? Crosses state lines.
I know exactly what they're doing, though. With these terms, they know exactly what they're doing.
Crosses state lines with AR-15, shoots 3 BLM protesters. That's the headline, right? And I think you even said some of them even used the term spray.
Yeah, Yahoo, the media outlet, they said the word spray, right? So they said something, assault rifle, something, spray.
Yeah.
You pick up those 2 terms, you think assault rifle, spray, he's just seen a crowd and just
gone. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
So then this lad, basically, who no prior criminal record, he's like
a Boy Scout, wasn't he?
Boy Scout. He's a Boy Scout, youth fireman, wants to be a police officer. He's seeing the town that he works in every day, that he's got friends in, where he knows all the people who've got the shops and everything. He's seeing that getting burnt down and looted. So he goes to this place initially to offer help. So he's there, he's giving first aid, he's giving water to people, all that sort of stuff. But he did take himself an AR-15 because he's going into a riot, right? People are saying, well, what was he doing there in the first place? Look.
What were the rioters doing there in the first place?
What were the rioters, exactly, and...
If your country's getting burnt down, and you've got people getting smashed over the head, and businesses getting,
You've got a young patriotic lad who's just...
Exactly.
More to go and defend the town.
And the police were told to stand down anyway, so the police weren't doing anything about it. So he went, and he was even giving first aid to the rioters, and water to them, whatever. Anyway, he got spotted by these guys. They chased him. One of them...
No, initially he was attacked, I think it was, by
with a skateboard.
No, wasn't he attacked by the guy who was actually a convicted paedophile?
Well,
he was attacked by him, and then
they chased him down.
That mob chased him down after he had attacked him.
Exactly, yeah. Chased him down, kicked him in on the floor. They tried to take his gun off him, okay? So obviously what they're going to do if they get his gun off him? They're going to shoot him with it, aren't they? Yeah. Try to take his gun off him. Another one pulled a gun out and pointed it at him, a handgun and pistol out and pointed it at him. So obviously, in the heat of it, this lad fired off, killed 2, and basically
injured one other.
Eviscerated the bicep of the other one. Now, not that it matters, but we should point out that the one guy was a convicted paedophile. The other guy, say again.
He had served time.
Served time, yeah. Convicted paedophile. The other guy had domestic abuse. I think he'd even beaten up his own nan.
And drug abuse, I think, as well, wasn't it?
And the other guy had so these are 3 convicts. You know, not that I'm judging, but we're just showing the character of these people, right? Attacking a 17-year-old who's out there doing good, and he basically acted in self-defense. It all got totally spun out of control. Suddenly, this kid's a white supremacist. He's a white terrorist, and again, the talking point was, you know, if he'd have been a black kid or a Hispanic kid, he wouldn't have even made it to the police car. That the police would have shot him, and if he had gone to court, they would have thrown the key away. But you know, if we just look at it here, okay, some examples, right? So you got Naeem Davis, 2017, got found not guilty for self-defense. Alex Hughes, another black guy, 2019, not guilty, self-defense. James Nero, 2019. Sumana Jadama, an African immigrant, 2016, self-defense. Kyla Nunley, 2015, self-defense. And there's another 26 examples of black and Hispanics not getting convicted for self-defense.
Yeah.
So
Did you get that from a mainstream media outlet?
Did I? Right. I mean, I got that off a conservative person on Twitter, but that's not to point out, oh, look at what all these black people did. Right? They're just as bad. No, it's to say the narrative is
The only
this
reason
kid,
this person
the only
got
reason
off
this
is
guy
because
got off
he's
is because he's white
Yeah.
and it's white privilege. Well, hang
Yeah.
on. What about that?
Yeah,
We've got
yeah, yeah.
20. We've got 31 examples there
Yeah.
of, you know, people of colour not getting convicted. To me, that shows that the justice system in America is working, you know. But because this one lad, who the media had already made their mind up, even Joe Biden, during his campaign last year, referred to Carl Rittenhouse as a white supremacist.
Because this had already taken place.
This has already taken place.
Right.
Called him a white supremacist. You know, in the court of public opinion, he was already guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then when it came out not guilty on all counts, the only logical explanation can be because he's white and it's white privilege. Or could it just be that there was an impartial judge and, you know,
Yeah,
he
justice
just
has been
let
served.
justice take
And
its...
was all this part of another way to just stoke more racial divide? And, you know, the old saying is divide and conquer. I feel like there's a lot of that going on right now. I feel like, I mean, personally, anecdotally speaking from I've never experienced any racism myself. I've never seen any racism really, like, I mean, nothing like outlandish to speak of. So, in my opinion, I don't think racism is really that prevalent, but we obviously come from quite a multicultural city, don't we? So we're quite... But yeah, I think but like you say, you turn on the media and you'd think that we were living in some world where everybody's racist and everybody... It was like, I mean, I don't know, have we mentioned this before, where, you know, when the whole, there was a World Cup and there was a few people that were putting racist comments on, and the media made a big thing about, you know, racism in football and racism in England. And I've kind of said, like, my point on this is when you've got millions of people using the internet, have access to social media platforms, you're always going to get idiots that are going to be putting trolls, putting stupid things. If you want to go on the internet right now and find people that have said things about homosexual people or women or children or, you know, Indian people, or, you know, you're going to be able to find something out there.
Of course you are.
But the media
Is
decides...
it indicative of a pattern?
Is it? Yeah. And does that mean we've got a massive race problem within England? I personally cannot say that we have, because from my day-to-day life, I can walk out that door right now. I'm not going to suffer any racial abuse. You know, I go to my son goes to school with multicultural, all kinds of backgrounds. I've never heard one racist, you know, thing that's gone on at school. So, you know, it does very much like feel like the media is creating this narrative.
But it's like creating a narrative. It's almost like I've said before, we want you to look over here.
Yeah.
So you're not looking at what's going on over there. You know, you're not looking at the MPs doing all these scandals with regards to their expenses and all that sort of stuff. You're not looking at them now moaning because they can't have a second job, even though they're earning 82 grand in their first job. You know, but at the same time taking £20 off low-income families in terms of universal credit. You're not looking at the job that bloody Boris Johnson's doing. Yeah, you're not looking at the $5 trillion dollar infrastructure bill that's just been passed by the Democrats in America. You're not looking at any of that because you're too busy over here focused on this agenda that we've made up.
Yeah.
To try and
That's what it
you
definitely
know,
feels like, yeah.
To capture your attention. It's almost like, look over here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Here's the circus whilst we
Whilst
distract
we do
you
all
from
this over
actual
here, yeah.
reality.
Exactly.
I think there's been so many careers built off it as well. I think there's kind of, I'm trying to think of the word, monetary value added now
Yeah.
to like race. You know, there's so many people on both sides of the spectrum who now have sold books, who have got long-standing podcasts, TV deals, etc., talking about their stance on race.
Yeah. Race hustlers, really.
Yeah,
You know, the
definitely.
Al Sharptons, the what's his name? Oh, my mind's gone blank. You got a lot of these guys: Tariq Nasheed, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson.
Yeah.
What's the other guy? Anyway, mine's gone blank. But there's all these guys who basically have to keep racism alive because they've built their career off it.
That's the foundation of their career.
That's the foundation of their career. That's how they make their money. If suddenly, you know, we spoke about this, and this is going to be controversial, but we spoke about like how, you know, will we ever see a cure for cancer? Because obviously, if cancer's gone, you know,
There's a lot.
there's a
of
massive
There's a
industry
massive hole
that's
in
just,
that industry
that's
overnight,
gone.
isn't there?
You know,
and
again,
there's people making millions and billions.
and you know, this is no disrespect to anybody who's suffering with cancer, but what we're saying is, you know, we've made that argument that we never will see a true cure for cancer because it would affect so many industries. It's the same like this. They want to keep racism alive because there's so much money being able to be made. You know,
Like, I feel like if the media genuinely really wanted to stop racism and racial divide and, you know, create more unity, they'd be able to do it so much quicker by putting out nice stories of, you know, like, how often do you ever really hear that? You never hear any nice stories about, it's always negative, it's always this person's done this.
Yeah.
There's never any kind of like, you know, this group have come together with this group, or, you know, this person's helped this person. And you start hearing that in the media a lot more.
yeah,
And instead of walking down the street and you've just heard, you know, an article of, you know, white man shoots black man in, or, you know, or whatever, or Asian man, or whatever you want to call it, right, and it's racial. Instead of walking down the street and looking at another Asian, black, whatever, you'd have a much better view on them, or vice versa, if you read something, Asian man just helped white man's family from getting, or, you know, or vice versa.
Why do we even have to identify the race?
Well, exactly,
You know,
why do we? But
man helps man.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be
Human being helps
you know,
human being.
this guy's done this, because all you're doing is you just we're going back to the 60s where it's segregation again. You know, blacks do this, whites do this, Indians do this, that sort of thing, when it should just be man does this or woman does this. But
And there's certain schools in America who are actually in favour of that, aren't they?
segregation.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, massively. And I personally feel, you see, what the problem is, we are spoiled in the democracy that we live in now. Okay, never has it been a better time to be alive for anyone. It's never been a better time to be black, gay, white, woman, whatever. In the history of the world, in the West, it's never been a better time than now to be alive, okay? And we often think that there's no way we could slip back to where we once were.
Yeah.
But we're only ever one generation away from going backwards. And what's happening now is you're having a generation of white kids who are constantly being told that, you know, they're inherently evil or they're inherently racist. Their opinion doesn't matter because of, you know, white privilege, all this sort of stuff. You're now breeding racists, future racists. So all the work that's been done over the last 20, 30 years, 40 years since the 60s, of building race relations, unity, equality and everything, it's all going to be erased in the next, you know, 10 years, because all you're getting is the media alienating and demonising one race. And perfect example is I watched an interview the other day. There's she's a news presenter in America, Joy Reid, her name is, black woman, well educated. She brought out a video after the Carl Rittenhouse verdict, and it was basically like, you know, white tears, white privilege, white supremacy, white, and here's the barometer of how to sort of gauge whether this is racist or not. Take the exact same clip, change every word from white to X. So change it to black, change it to Indian, Asian, gay, whatever.
Yeah.
Would it still have the same context? Would it still be seen as not racist? If the answer is no, then that's racist. You can't be saying that. You know, if you can't switch the words out for anything else and still not sound racist, then it's racist. And that's the thing. You can say whatever you want at the moment about, particularly, I've said it before, straight white males. Say whatever you want.
Of
Right, I
course.
see what you mean. Yeah.
You know, and
you're not able to defend yourself either.
no, you're not able to defend yourself. So what's that going to do? It's going to breed hatred. It's going to breed
From both
resentment.
sides as well.
Well, yeah, from both sides, because you're fueling it. You're basically telling
One
a
side
young
that-
black kid that is a victim,
Of,
and
yeah.
that white people hate when they're out to get you. You're telling white people that no matter what you do,
You should be ashamed
you
of
should be
your
ashamed of
past.
yourself.
Yeah,
You're
your
evil.
lineage, all
You're
that.
only here. You're only where you are now because of privilege,
Yeah.
right? And you're just dividing people further and
You're
further
just breeding
apart.
these pockets, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just such a shame.
But
Unrest.
no one in the mainstream media can come out and just say what we're saying. You would never see a discussion like this
Yeah.
on TV, because automatically, and there's probably people watching this now who probably think we're a bunch of racists, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, probably, because we're
That and how nice your blue socks are.
exactly, yeah, well, yeah. But because these sorts of conversations never get heard.
No.
Yeah.
So you've got particularly like a young generation of kids now who have never heard this type of discussion because it's not allowed.
The thing is as well, this discussion that we're having right here, right now, we wouldn't be able to get this far. We'd have opened our mouth, said a few words, and the moment we'd have said the words race or white supremacy or something kind of which maybe suggests we're a little bit more right-leaning in our beliefs, we'd have been shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
100%. You'd have been shut down. You'd have been called crazy. You know, you'd have been talked over by the presenter.
But it seems that we're living in a world where discussion is almost being stemmed now. Unless it agrees with the narrative of the media, it's like you can't discuss it, otherwise you're either a racist or a sexist or a homophobe or